Good afternoon. Hello. Hello, hello. Hey, people. People. How about friends of Sandra?
No, it's a teacher. All right, shut it.
Hello, my name is Michelle Casuccio. I've been a friend of Sandra's for about 15 years, I would guess. Probably met her in the summertime, and she was very unhappy. She saw some people out jogging around, and she said, you know, I just don't understand it. It's 110 degrees, and I was always taught that unless you are military or an idiot, that there would be no reason for you to be out running around in the middle of summer. So she had no respect for joggers in the summertime. And that's how I met her, on the sidewalk beside my house. We lived in the same neighborhood, and she was literally bitching about somebody doing that. But I've known her for several years. She was like a mother to me, but I couldn't say that to her. Anytime we were in the hospital or anywhere like that, they would say, and this is, and she's like, just a friend, she's not my daughter. You know, she's like, I'm not old enough to be your mom. And I'm like, okay, whatever. But she was very, you know, as you can tell by these pictures, she was a model when she was young in LA, and she took great pride in herself. And obviously, probably like the rest of us, never wanted to look at herself as an 80-year-old woman. She always saw herself as that beautiful 25-year-old woman. So she was literally like a mom to me. I moved to Arizona, and she was my very first neighbor that I met. And she didn't have a very good relationship with her son then. And I had a 15-year-old that was going through all kinds of, you know, crazy 15-year-old boy things. First of all, I moved him across the country and didn't have any friends. And she had a cat. He happened to like cats. So when she would travel, which all of you know, she traveled often, he would go over and take care of her cat. And there again, I had a 15-year-old son. He was a great kid, wonderful, getting married, all this good stuff. But she knocked on my door one day and said, we need to solve the world's problems. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? She said, why don't you come over to my house, we'll have a glass of wine. I'm like, okay. She says, so, just babysat my cat for 3 days, and I was on my computer, and now I have porn popping up. I'm like, oh my gosh. She's like, well, and what do you want me to do? I said, well, why don't you discuss it with him? And we don't even have to say that you and I had this conversation. And she says, I think that's best. So we had that conversation, and then he continued to babysit her cat from then on out. And for all I know, unless she kept me out of the loop, it never happened again. And then my husband was her veterinarian, who took care of her cat, Angel, and then Bella. And I sold her probably 5 homes in 15 years. The lady didn't have to sit still. You know, she was in and out of Arizona. I guess her story, if you don't know it, is she grew up in LA from a very prominent accountant father. Her mom did a wide range of entertaining. Sandra loved to entertain. And then she got married to a gentleman and moved to Bisbee, I believe was how it worked out. And that's where she had Jim, her son. And they lived in Santa Barbara. I take that back. They moved to Santa Barbara. And she got a divorce. She and her son continued to live in Santa Barbara until he was a teenager. Then they moved to Bisbee because it just was too expensive for a single mom, and she couldn't make it. She tried really hard, and it just didn't work out. Along the way, her father got ill. She would go drive back and forth to Portland, Oregon, around Portland, and take care of her father. And lived back in Bisbee. Her son moved to Colorado to live with his dad. And I think that's when she and her son had their little falling out. She said it'd be a better opportunity for you, and he never came back. And so she regrets that, but you know, a single mom, I was a single mom, it's very difficult to raise a child on your own and make it, you know, 50 years ago. He's 50. He's my age. So from there, well, I guess you all know she had 5 husbands. So she was all over the place, but she traveled and loved it. And I think I saw Sandra's unhappiness mostly in the last 10 years since I've known her, when she lost her last husband, Joe, which I think was her soulmate in her life. She really loved Joe. He was a great man. And here we are today. She is to be remembered. She would be thrilled with what we're doing here for her. She did her last scuba dive 3 years ago, and it was 101st scuba dive. So she was not wanting to give up. You know, she was doing it until the end. She only left Hawaii because she couldn't breathe, because of the volcanic smog, which they call fog, or she would still be over there pledging away. And it was funny, the night that we put her, that she made the decision, thank God, she made the decision herself to go into the hospice care facility on Monday. And my husband and I went back down later that evening when she got settled in, and she said, they had a couple talks about things. He says, you know, I didn't really like you very much when you moved in beside me. You were cranky and argumentative and all this stuff. She goes, yeah, I didn't really like you either. And so they kind of made amends and gave each other a hug. And he says, but I really like you now a lot. And so they had it was a nice evening. And I took her a glass of wine, because from then on out, from the first time that we talked about the computer porn, we solved the world's problems with a bottle of wine. Oftentimes about our children. So she would say, why don't you go over and let's solve the world's problems? So I would go over, because it was literally steps to her house. So I would go over and we'd solve the world's problems. So that night I took a bottle of wine in, the first night when she was in hospice. And she and my husband and I had a glass of wine, and she was just tickled pink. She thought that was the best thing ever. And I said, well, let's solve the world's problems. She goes, well, I think they're probably a little bit too big for us tonight. I said, well, we can try. And she said, you know, this is just too much to take in. This is too much to take in. I can't quite fathom all of this. So I was just talking to my friend, I don't know if I really want to know and have all that time to think about it when the time comes, because she was very well aware and fine, you know. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to have a prayer, and then everybody get a plate, get a glass of your favorite beverage, and we're going to make a toast to Sandra, and then we're going to watch a beautiful video that her friend Teresa and Bear did the video, a beautiful video of Sandra's, some pictures and memories of her. And then we could just take turns. I'd like everybody else, anybody else that would like to say a couple words, please step up and just share a funny thought or a memory or a joke. She would love that. You know, this is what would really tickle her pink. So if you're tuned to that, that would be great. Okay? All right. Teresa.
Okay. Creator, we are here today to celebrate Sandra's life over this wonderful food and friends. We'll laugh, we'll cry, we'll share some memories, and we thank you for all the blessings in our life and the blessings of knowing Sandra. Amen.
We're just going to do a quick cheers to Sandra Walzer.
Just a minute, Michelle?
Sure.
We got some people.
Okay.
We got something brighter on the nose.
I have to tell you one more thing while you're grabbing that. When I was cleaning out, I'm also her realtor, as you probably gathered, and I had to go through every drawer and every envelope in that house. And she had, when I'm going through her office, she had these envelopes like APS or Southwest Gas, or just all these envelopes. So I thought, well, maybe there's bills to be paid. So I would open them up, nothing. Then I opened up the third one, there was like $35. So then I went through and was looking through score, there was like $75. I'm like, oh my gosh, Sandra, really, is this a joke? You're going to make me go through these 1,000 saved envelopes that you have because you might have some money stuffed away in it? And so I had to do that. But anyway, let's toast her. Cheers to Sandra. She would be thrilled and thankful for all of her friends that she has here. Many blessings to her, and may she rest in peace.
I've known Sandra for 8 years. I'm her financial advisor. So we've talked money mostly, but we've also talked God and theology. And she had some outside of mainstream kind of Christian theology and beliefs. And it was almost like my husband's beliefs, who's Native American. So I've incorporated some of these more ecumenical prayers and things in the service we're going to do today. So I have a reading from Khalil Gibran. Let somebody come in.
Excuse me.
Oh, I thought that was our church.
No, it wasn't.
Good timing.
Good timing. And then a woman said, "Speak to us of joy and sorrow."
What's your time for happy hour?
And he answered, "Your joy is your sorrow unmasked, and the self-same well from which your laughter rises was oftentimes filled with your tears. And how else can it be? The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. Is not the cup that holds your wine the very cup that was burned in the potter's oven? And is not the lute that soothes your spirit the very wood that was hollowed out with knives? When you are joyous, look deep into your heart, and you shall find that it is only which you have given you sorrow that has given you joy. When you are sorrowful, look again in your heart, and you shall see that in truth you are weeping for that which has been your delight. Some of you say, joy is greater than sorrow, and others say, nay, sorrow is greater. But I say unto you, they are inseparable. Together they come, and when one sits alone with you at your board, remember, the other is asleep upon your bed. Verily, you are suspended like scales between your sorrow and your joy. Only when you are empty are you at a standstill and balanced. When the treasure keeper lifts you up to weigh his gold and silver, needs most your joy or your sorrow rise and fall.
Thank you.
Thank you. You want to speak a little bit? Okay, go.
I just want to talk about Bella a little bit because I've had her for the last 2 years off and on when Sandra had to go to the hospital, put her in with my dogs because she loved, especially the big one, Winston. And the little one, he's a French poodle, he couldn't care less. She's a little Mexican dog, he didn't like her. So, but anyhow, and then I went back and forth with hospitals, and I thought, she's there 5-6 days, and she loves this dog. This dog is attached to her like Velcro. And so I called the hospital and I said, what does it take? Can we go in and bring the dog? Well, absolutely. Give her a bath in rabies vaccine. Well, they were up to date, so I said, okay, Bella, here's a sink. Boom. Got in the sink, cleaned her up, and she wasn't even dry by the time I got to the hospital. And then I dropped her off in her bed, and she'd been there 5 days, and guess what? The next day she was going home. That's called a therapy dog. So, and then I had her again. The last one, no, I have to go back with the going into the garage and just found all her paperwork and all this stuff. When I found the most beautiful family for her, because I can't have 3 dogs here. It's enough with 2. But I loved her to death. However, I found a family in Sun City West. And so I picked up all the stuff. And I'll tell you what, I got a Honda Odyssey. It was full and then some. All the stuff that Sandra had for her. And I didn't get it all. They got it, and then I went out, and Michelle said, "Oh, this is for Bella. This is for Bella." And so I picked Bella because it's a little thing that they could cart her around in the wheel so she can look out, but don't have to be in the heat too much. They had only had her for a week, and they had to go back to Minnesota. And she almost took her with her because she tried to get her to for me to take care of her when they were gone. I said, let's not tear her up again. She's getting used to your home. So she found someone that took care of her, and she's just in love with them. And she's got a huge backyard, about this size. And so she's loving it, and they are loving her. So she's in a super home, because we tried two, and we turned them down. So just wanted to let you guys know that she is in a fabulous home, and happy, happy, happy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's awesome because Bella meant everything to her.
She's a companion. I was
Sat
thinking
her
about her.
all the time.
My dog misses Bella. He goes over to the fence all the time.
Oh, is that right?
Whines for her.
Debbie, do you want to see? Oh, you and I don't want to yeah, right. Go for it, kid, yeah.
Well, the funniest thing is I answered, do I really sound like that? That's weird. I answered an ad on Nextdoor Rio Verde to do light housekeeping for her when she got sick for twice a week for an hour. And she wasn't fussy at all. She just, needed sheets changed, her bed made, or laundry folded, just basic garbage, empty. Dog walked, and I did that for a couple of months. Then she went off chemo, and she started feeling better off chemo. And then she got fussy. You're not doing the bed right here. I'm like, oh, Sandra, you must be feeling better.
That's her.
That's so cute. But I actually would work 1 hour and then visit with her for 2 hours. And it was good getting to know her. She was really what, I don't know what religion she was. I did ask her about her religion and her spiritual values and things, but she really was what we should all be. Compassionate, she was kind, she was sweet, she was she would never gossip. She was, I took it hard when she died, even though I'm not sure where she is today, because she knows about that, God knows about that, but I just miss her so much already. She was just a sweetheart, getting to know her, and it was a privilege. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Sherry.
Sherry. Let's do it.
Spotlight's on.
I just, I've only known Sandra a couple of years. We moved in at the same time, around the same time. And it wasn't an easy move for me. I left Illinois with my family there and my grandchildren. I got on the plane to come down here for the move. Mike drove, and I cried all the way in. I'm sure people thought I was Looney Tunes. But anyway, Sandra made that transition for me a lot easier. She came over and introduced herself. And the first thing she says is, "Do you play mahjong?" And I'm like, "No." She goes, "Okay, well, we're going to teach you." And she called Jan, and the three of us sat over at Sandra's house, and they taught me mahjong. And from there, then, I now play down at the community center, and I've met so many wonderful people that way. And the same was true about water volleyball. She says, "Well, you might need to come down and play water volleyball." I'm like, "Sandra, I haven't played volleyball in 40 years. And she says, "No, it's not like that." She said, "It's just fun." So Mike and I went, and she was right. It was just fun. Although I got to warn you, if you're going to join us, we've gotten better over the years, and it's become very competitive. But one of the things about water volleyball was just last summer when she was going through chemo, and she couldn't play. And that was the one time I saw her cry, was that she wasn't going to be able to play water volleyball this last summer. So, you know, she was just a go-getter. She just brought me out in so many ways. She would come over and she goes, "Have you ever been to the Rural Market?" And I'm like, "No." "All right, well, Michael, watch Bella, and we'll go to the Rural Market." And she, you know, she was crusty a lot of times, but I love crusty because I can be crusty too. And so Mike and I both just adored her, and we're going to miss her. I'm going to miss her a lot because she was one who wanted to do things all the time, and I appreciated that because she dragged me along. So maybe another little toast.
The plays that you went to?
Pardon?
The plays that you went to with her?
Oh yes, I forgot about that. She also was very involved in the Arizona Symphony. And she would ask me, she goes, "You want to go to this concert? You want to go to that concert?" And I love concerts, I love music. And I'm like, "Sure, I want to go." And we would go to these concerts, which were absolutely fabulous. And I hope to do that on my own this year, and maybe invite other people. One of the ones that we went to was Cheetah Rivera and Tommy Tune. Now, for those who are older, know Cheetah Rivera and Tommy Tune. And she was telling me that she saw the original West Side Story on Broadway that Cheetah Rivera was in. And the show was phenomenal. It was wonderful. And on our way to the car, the two of us were singing and dancing, "I like to be in America." She, like I said, she was just a lot of fun. When we would sit at the concert, the two of us would do chair dancing. You know, we would just be sitting there and doing chair dancing. And she loved that kind of stuff. So, yep, to Sandra, I miss her dearly. And I will always remember that she made Rio Verde a wonderful place for me.
Hey Sherry, while you're up here, why don't we start the movie?
Oh, okay.
Bear wants to say a couple things about it, then we can show the movie, if you can manage the technology.
I'd like to explain.
Oh, turn around the other way.
Testing.
The other way.
I'm the sound person. Let me get it.
No. There we go.
There we go.
I'd like to explain this video because it's got a lot of symbolism involved. And this is my reflection of Sandra. You all know that my wife was her financial advisor, and my wife happens to drag me along into everything she does. I'm her sound person, I'm her video person, and I love it because it's my life.
Michelle, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
To make a long story short, we used to have wine nights, or what was it called?
Wine tasting.
Wine tasting. Now, of course, I don't drink. That's because I'm Indian, my father's an alcoholic, and so on, and I don't drink because of that factor. But I'd go to the wine tasting because I wanted to meet the people that my wife was dealing with. I found them all very delightful and enjoyable. And I would sit there with Sandra, and she would just question me, question after question about my culture and my beliefs and so forth. I didn't realize that we had similar views until later. I found her to be the most magnificent person I've ever met. She's a strong, strong woman. I married one, so I recognize another one. And I found her thoroughly enjoyable. Our conversations weren't, "Oh, so you're Indian." No, she would go, "So tell me about your spirituality." And she'd sit there and go, "Yeah, okay, I get it. So I'm not going to drag this out very long, but I want to explain this video that I made for her. You'll notice that at the beginning of the video, there are these luminaries being set into the air. In Eastern philosophy, these are wishes being sent into the heavens to touch someone who is left behind, or someone who's gone, or someone who's missed. Each one of these luminaries has somebody behind that has given a prayer, has embowed it with not just light, but an essence of a wish, an essence of I miss you, an essence I love you, and sometimes a bell.
Hey, hi Mike, how are you? Debbie? Hi Mike, how are you?
Intermission. So continuing, there are thousands of luminaries being set off. Just think of all the thousands of wishes, of emotions tied into these luminaries. And one of the concepts I talked to about her was the concept of not eternal life, but a continuation of energy. These luminaries are essence of energies being sent to wherever she's gone. I don't believe there's an ending. I don't believe there's a beginning. They're just a continuation. So wherever she's at, these luminaries are our representation of our well wishes, of our love, of remembering her being fussy, of remembering her telling jokes, and on and on. Now, at the end of this video, there's going to be fireworks. And this is a symbolism to the grandeur of the person she was. She would just light up a room when she came in because of her personality and her enjoyment of people and of being alive. Thank you.
memorial to Sandra. And I forgot to tell you one story about her that always cracks me up. Those who play water volleyball. I can't remember what his name was. Was it Jack?
It was Jack.
It was Jack, okay. And unfortunately, Jack had fallen and hit his head and passed away. And so Sandra and I were talking about how sad that was, and she said to me, yeah, you know, and I had my eye on it. And it just cracked me up, because that's what she was like.
She was on eHarmony and all kinds of stuff. 80 years old, but I think she was on eHarmony, right? Still.
Yeah, she was.
She was still
She
on
was.
eHarmony.
And
Senior
the other thing is that we pick up her mail. Mike and I pick up her mail.
And take out her trash.
And what astonishes me is that she contributed to so many charities. And they're still, of course, emailing her or mailing her and stuff like that. But it's amazing how soft-hearted she really was.
And to auto-debit her credit cards that I canceled. She is a philanthropist. She's
Yes.
really helping a lot.
Yes. I'm like, wow, she contributed to this. Oh, wow, she must have contributed to this. And her heart was in the Arizona Symphony.
Yeah.
And I'd kind of like to leave that with everybody. If you ever think that you want to contribute to anything in her name, that was really her heart. She was involved in it for many years.
Yeah, music festival.
So the little reading that I have that Teresa has found for us to share is, we share the road of life with ones that we hold dear, and if we're in our power, we always keep them near. For they help us navigate the obstacles in life, and it makes the journey easier when they are walking by our side. And though the way is lonelier when we no longer hear their step, remember they still share our road. They just traveled on ahead.
Well, forget all that other stuff. But she wouldn't want us to mourn like that.
Yeah.
She was a happy person. She was gay, she was outgoing, she was just tremendous. She was a friend maker. She wanted to be involved in everything with everybody. She wanted to do as much as she could. She moved to this area because over in the area that she lived in, Cave Creek, it got so slow in the summertime and spring. Everybody went home. She was just bored to tears. She wanted to come to an active community, an adult community, and she fit right in, and she just loved it. So I've been asked to read this for you, and I give you this one thought to keep. I am with you still, I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glints on snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift, uplifting rush of quiet birds in circled flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not think of me as gone. I am with you still in each new dawn.
Well, I remember at water volleyball, I also played mahjong with Sandra, and we talked a lot. And yeah, she was going after Jack. But my favorite story is one of the last few times that she did play water volleyball. I was watching her walk out of the pool, she turned around, and I went, oh no. And I walked up to her, and I'm kind of standing behind her like this with my towel, and I said, Sandra, here's a towel. I don't need a towel, Cheryl, I'm fine. I said, Sandra, you need a towel. And she goes, what's the matter? I said, well, and women here who have all had bathing suits, and if you have them too long, what happens? The entire back was gone. I saw her back, then her back. And I said, Sandra, take the towel. And she goes, is there any guys here? I said, Sandra, take the towel. She goes, I
going bananas to the end. She had her bathrooms and kitchen remodeled the month before she died. And that's hope. And that's, living your life to the fullest. She wanted to change, she changed it.
She also had cruise brochures sitting on her.
She still gets them.
Anybody else want to say a few words? Does anybody else have anything to say? Sherry, you have anything more to say?
No, just,
Loser.
just off the cuff, talking about the cruises last year.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
She went on that cruise, around the East Coast.
September, yeah.
Oh, with the
Yeah.
storms.
And Phil didn't, I don't think Michelle knew either, but when we were talking to her doctor at the end, her doctor said, Sandra, you have surprised me so many times. She says, I told you not to go on that cruise because I thought you'd come back in a body bag, but you proved me wrong. And she was planning on a cruise this summer. She asked me, she says, you think you want to go on a cruise with me? And I'm like, sure.
Yeah, actually, when we were in the hospital, just a quick memory, we were in the hospital, she was in the hospital for about 2 weeks, the last month of her life, coughing. And she just was in her house for a month coughing and couldn't breathe, and it was just getting progressively worse. And when I cleaned out, she must have had at least 10 bottles of Robitussin on her nightstand, but it wasn't working. And so we're in the hospital, and her oncologist finally comes in to talk to her on a Monday, the day that we put her in. She decided to go into hospice. And the oncologist is talking to Sherry and I and Sandra, because the three of us were present, and she says, Sandra, I really didn't want you to go on that cruise. She says, I know, but I was going on the cruise anyway, and the brochures are on my coffee table on the next cruise I'm going on. And she goes, okay, well, that's fine. And they were on her coffee table at her house when I went into her house to take care of her. She was going on another cruise. Literally, in March, she applied for a new passport. It hasn't come yet. So this is optimism and hope, and I think this is what got her through 2 years of lung cancer. But the final note that I want to say is we were there, and the oncologist says, Sandra, I just think we're where we need to be, and I think further treatment would be, deemed not necessary. She says, well, I understand. And she said, I don't know what to do, what do? I can't take it all in, didn't she? She said, I don't know that I can make this decision. She just really wasn't going to give up.
No, she didn't want to
She
give
just
up.
decided, I'm not really sure I'm going to agree with you on this. And that was just the conversation that day. But the oncologist said, well, you really beat the odds. You went on that cruise. And she goes, yep, I beat the 3 months. And so what Sherry and I came to find out was many months ago, she was only given 3 months to live. And Sandra's, I honestly believe her will and her grace, her belief, whatever she did, and her ability to move forward and have the hope that she was going to move forward is what kept her here for many more months. And I would venture to guess these last several months were very joyful for her. I would say from Christmas, January, February, March were some of the best months Sandra had. She was so happy and living life to the fullest. So keep that in mind.
We got to spend them with her because she.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think that everybody needs to keep that hope in there because she embraced it and was moving forward. Remodeled her house January and February, and much to my chagrin.
That's for her granddaughter.
Yeah. So don't ever give up hope.
Did she share with you that she'd been given 3 months?
No, that's what I'm saying. She did not hear that, and she was not going to hear that. That was not part of her.
Well, that makes me think about her enthusiasm.
Yes.
Because the word entheos is the Greek word which enthusiasm comes from, which means God in you.
Well, I think
I don't think she did it though.
she had told me that the prognosis wasn't really good like a year ago. And she still kept on fighting.
You know,
Tell the toothbrush story. That is hysterical.
So the toothbrush story is this. So, you know, she's in the hospital. I'm going to visit her the last 2 weeks in the hospital. She was put a month at home, couldn't breathe, and then finally went to the hospital because Debbie said, you've got to go to the hospital. You can't breathe. She was over there visiting. I'm like, okay, I'll go to the hospital. But she told me I didn't want to go to the hospital because I don't like hospitals and I don't want to deal with it. So she went to the hospital, and I went to visit her.
The hospice.
Yeah, the last day she was in the hospital, and the oncologist came and we had this conversation, and the oncologist said, you know, we need to move you to hospice. She goes, well, okay, I'll make that decision. And she made the decision, and so I went in that night with my husband, as I told you, and took her a couple items that she wanted, like a phone charger or what have you. And she says, well, I need my water pick. And I said, your water pick? And she says, yeah, I need my water pick. And I said, now she was never getting out of bed again. Probably not brushing her teeth again. She said, I really would like to have my water pick. I said, okay, I'll get your water pick. So on the next day I brought her her water pick. But Sandra was not dying in Sandra's eyes. And all I can say to you all is, if we can all keep that hope and that vibrancy, I really believe it gave her many months, maybe a year longer than, I really honestly believe that if you have faith and hope and the vibrance to want to continue on, it has a lot to do with it. And that's just my take on it.
And I think this community of friends, you have a lot to do with that, because Michelle's known Sandra longer than I have. I've known her about 8 years, but she's never, in the time I've known her, been happy in a place like she was here. And everybody in this room conveyed themselves and contributed to that joy in her life.
That's true, and as a matter of fact, one final word is, she said to our oncologist that day, have you heard about Rio Verde where I live? And her oncologist said, it's a wonderful community. She says, I've never been, she was totally full in her brain, in her mind, and she says, I've never been so content since I've lost Joe, and she says, I really found everything that I needed in that community. She said, you really need to tell some other people like me that they need to go to Rio Verde. She said, I finally found community and contentment and peace. And thank you all, because the friend that I've known for so many years had not been at peace. But she really found a lot of peace in the last couple of years just being here with you all, and that makes me happy. My husband and I said, wow, Sandra's such a fulfilled person now, so thank you.
can I say something?
Yeah.
I would like to thank Jen McNally for referring her to me. Because she sits there and hears everybody's problems.
She's the post office lady.
And through her, I met Sandra. And
Yep.
through her, because she lost her dog, and she said, nobody's going to take care of my dog. Well, I did.
Awesome.
And then
Thank you.
she passed it on to Sandra, because Sandra didn't want to leave her dog to anybody.
Right.
And so this is how it kind of, so she started the whole thing. Thank you, Jen.
You're welcome. Can we get dessert? So everybody please grab some
Is
dessert.
there dessert here?
Yeah, the bears can do his thing.
Yeah. And then there's, the pet thing is interesting, because I did a video. This video is on YouTube. Just type in Sandra Walzer and you can see it.
I'm going to send it to her son.
Yeah, it's on.
Sandra, did I just say that?
I'm going to send all of this to her son.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that.
There's a pet video that I did that Sandra and Bella are in that video, because she was very concerned about taking care of Bella when she was gone. And I did on my YouTube channel a video about how to take care of your dog financially when you're gone.
Oh,
So,
gosh.
and Sandra and Bella, that picture of her and Bella are in that video.
Okay, good. Let's play that. Let's play that. Would you like Bear to go ahead
Yeah,
and say the
Bear
closing
can
prayer?
Bear,
I would
do
like
it.
to say something too. You know, we're not going to be able to say goodbye to everybody individually as you leave, but thank you now for coming and paying a little tribute to Sandra, who was very special to all of us for the very short time that we knew her, and we just wish we had a chance to know her a little bit longer. She was sweet. Thanks for coming, and
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
after
Give a little kiss for her ashes. I hope to put them in the ocean.
Oh, that's right.
In Asian philosophy and my native background, what I just did was a simple prayer. A prayer from the soul that doesn't have words. Buddhism uses it as a mantra, as a resonance of energy. And the simple factor involved is that we are all composed of energy. None of us dies. We just move on forward. Whether you're Christian, Islamic, Native American, there is no ending. Just a continuation of what has always existed and what will be always. In the great picture of things, every single one of us is a miracle. We're combinations of the stars, of energy, of the Big Bang, if you believe in science. We're a combination of God, if you believe in God. We come to existence from nothing, actually from something. Everything's interconnected. We are the trees, we're the wind, we're the sunlight. In the human context, an individual is composed by who he interacts with. Every single person you touch, talk to, leaves an imprint, an essence in themselves. How do you remember Sandra? Because you're remembering life. You're remembering her words, her energy. And that's what we're here to celebrate. Her life is not gone. It only continues forward. I'll be the first one to tell you that I don't have the answers, and I will never have the answers. But the simple factor involved is, it's not important to have the answers. What's important is the person you're sitting next to, the person you share a life with, a person you have a conversation, a person you thank. Every time you say thank you, hello, how you doing? Let's be together. Is a prayer in itself of life. So to end this, I do not say goodbye to Sandra because she's back in here someplace talking to me. Just as my wife will be. Unfortunately, she's a lot more in my background. Because she's there. I can almost hear her say thank you for spending some time with